September 28th, 2022, and we're holding this hearing using the Zoom online platform. The time is 10 p.m. and I'm joined. I am here chairing this hearing. Okay, today we'll be receiving public and government witness testimony on the Director of the Office for the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing, Kari Cooke confirmation resolution of 2022. In accordance with DC Code 23-152, the Office for the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing Establishment Amendment Act of 2022, the new Director of the Mayor's Office for the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing, or MODDHH, shall serve as the Chief Administrative Officer of the office and may organize personnel, redelegate authority, develop programs, and take other action consistent with appropriations and other applicable law. The purpose of MODDHH is to advance the civil rights of the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities. I think that our interpreter has frozen. I'm going to pause for 1 second. There you are. Okay. The purpose of MODDHH is to advance the civil rights of the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities by ensuring and overseeing district-wide compliance with the laws that affect them. Additionally, some of the duties that ODDHH shall have include advancing the adoption of laws, policies, and programs that benefit the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities, increasing public awareness of needs and issues, providing outreach, training, and education, providing information about existing programs and services, and submitting an annual report that analyzes the accessibility of district programs, evaluates the availability of language access measures, and recommends new laws, policies, or programs that address the needs of the communities. Acting Director Kari Cooke was named the inaugural director by the mayor on June 13th, 2022. She most recently served as a fellow of the Stagen Leadership Academy, Vice President of Programs at Community Services for Deaf, and Assistant Dean at Dartmouth College. Acting Director Cooke has been recognized for her advocacy, having been appointed by Governor Cuomo to the New York State Independent Living Council. She's also known for her work as the inaugural Director of Public Policy and Government Affairs for National Black Deaf Advocates. In 2014, she was also appointed to the Obama administration's FCC Disability Advisory Council. Acting Director Cooke earned a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, a Master of Arts in Vocational Rehab Counseling from Northern Illinois University, and a Master of Science in Higher Education from the University of Pennsylvania. I look forward to hearing about Acting Director Cooke's plan for this new agency. I'd now like to provide some logistical announcements for today's hearing before I call the witness. In addition to Zoom, this hearing is being broadcast live on my website at brianneknadeau.com/live and is streaming on YouTube. I'd also like to provide some detailed reminders about the Zoom platform and the committee's protocols for witnesses participating today. All witnesses participating in this webinar are currently listed as attendees in Zoom. This means your microphones are muted and your video cameras are turned off. When it's your turn to join a panel for testimony, I will call your name and a member of my staff will change your status to a panelist. You will need to accept the invitation in order to be promoted to the panel. If you wish to activate your video while you testify, you'll need to click the button in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen that looks like a video camera. Please keep your speaker muted until it is your turn to testify. There will be a frame that includes a clock keeping your time. Representatives of organizations will be allowed 5 minutes to testify, and public witnesses representing themselves will be allowed a total of 3 minutes. When your time is up, I kindly ask that you conclude your remarks so that we can ensure that everyone has a chance to be heard. We will be calling one panel today with all 6 witnesses that have signed up to testify, and council members will have up to 10 minutes to ask questions of each panel. In order to enhance accessibility, this hearing will have the closed captions function enabled. If you'd like to turn on this function, please click the closed caption logo located on the bottom right of your Zoom application. For anyone who would like to use the ASL interpretation today, you may do so by pinning the screens of the interpreters. This will ensure that you will always see their videos. You can do this by right-clicking on the interpreter's screen and selecting Pin. For any technical difficulties, you can send a message to the host labeled as Committee on Human Services, and they will follow up with you. Additionally, if you're having trouble gaining access to the Zoom and you've pre-registered, you can reach my team at humanservices@dccouncil.gov and they will try to resolve your issue. Okay. I'm now going to call our first panel. This will actually be our only panel. We're going to bring everybody up together. So we have Monica Gallego, Tabitha Jacques, Christopher D. Johnson, District of Columbia Area Black Deaf Advocates, Russell Michelhoff, Hearing Loss Association of America, DC Chapter, Judy Alden, Hearing Loss Association of America, DC Chapter, and Kenneth Kluskey. Ask for your patience as we promote all of our witnesses. Great. So I understand Monica has not joined. So we are going to begin with Tabitha. Wonderful. Tabitha, you may begin if you're ready. If you need to be heard audibly, then please unmute yourself.
Could you hope, please?
Oh, yes, just one moment, please. Give our interpreter a minute to catch up and perhaps switch off.
Okay, we're ready.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate our interpreter team today. They're going to be working hard. Okay. So Tabitha, when you are ready, you may begin.
Sure thing. I just want to give credence to Kari and her vision. I'm very impressed by it for the Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing. You really am in need of someone like her to take the lead with her motivation, with her zeal. She's breaking barriers for deaf people here and worldwide. My personal wish is for her office to be as successful in DC with improving the interpreting services and the access for deaf people in the medical field. It's very frustrating for me as a deaf person, in understanding Kari's vision and executing her plan. As we look forward to, her aggressive take in handling DC government and her role. I am very excited to that. I'm a woman of a few words, but I'm just excited for what Kari's going to bring to her position. Thank you so much. Sorry, I need to see the interpreter on screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you wouldn't mind sending us your testimony in writing, we'd love to include that in the record as well.
Sure thing, will do.
Thank you so much. And now we'll hear from Christopher D. Johnson, District of Columbia Area Black Deaf Advocate. Christopher, you may begin when you're ready.
All right. My God. Good morning, everyone. To committee chairperson, council member, thank you all delegates, all representatives, leaders, and every institution represented here. It is my sincere honor to stand here before the public hearing. PR 240904, the director of the Office of the Deaf, Deafblind, Hard of Hearing, confirmation for Kari Cooke. My name is Christopher D. Johnson. I am the presiding president of the District of Columbia chapter of Black Deaf, of the area of Black Deaf Advocates. And today is a special day in Washington, D.C. This is a great step forward to bridge the division between the deaf and hard of hearing communities through servant leaders of underrepresented communities and organizations. Ms. Cooke, Kari Cooke, is the true epitome of an equitable, adaptive leader who continuously builds an intersectional vision with said experience by developing strategies while connecting with outstanding leaders. Her vision and goal is to focus on a results-driven, influential plans. Please note that I'd say approximately 50% of the deaf population having an additional disability. More Black deaf people, around 61%, has had an additional disability compared to 43% of white deaf people. Director Cooke specializes in working with underserved populations, including but not limited to deaf youth, homeless veterans, and formerly incarcerated persons. She most recently served as a fellow of this Stage and Leadership Academy, vice president of programs of the Community Services for the Deaf, and assistant dean of the Dartmouth College. I truly appreciate your dedication to DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity is the different things that make us all different from one another. Equity is offering support and other resources for those who need it most, and inclusion is making sure everyone is included and welcome at the table of decision making. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
And now we will receive testimony from Russell Michelhoff, Hearing Loss Association of America, DC chapter.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Russell Michelhoff. I serve on the executive board of the DC chapter of the Hearing Loss Association of America. I strongly support the creation of the Office of Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing. I'm delighted at the appointment of Kari Cooke as director. The capacity of the office to serve the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing will depend critically on the development of an agenda and the access of the office has to qualified staff. I will try to address these matters briefly. An illustrative list of important functions that the office could offer district residents would include, first, serving as a central source of information for people with hearing loss. Because owing to a lack of information and resources, the large majority of people with hearing loss do not avail themselves of available technology and helpful communication strategies. I think this should be the office's most important function, and it is one that can be performed at a modest cost. Particular concerns include where to get hearing tested, coping strategies, financing sources for hearing assistive alerting and telecommunications equipment, and emergency preparedness. Second, working with other district agencies and with non-governmental agencies to ensure understanding of the communication needs of persons with hearing loss and deafness, and assuring accessibility to such agencies' services and programs. Accessibility in turn can and should be assured by routinely providing sign language interpretation, real-time captioning, and as needed, appropriate and well-maintained hearing assistive technology and devices. Third, communicating with parents of newborns identified with hearing loss to assure that they understand the need for early intervention so that language acquisition is not delayed. Virtually without exception, newborns in the district and elsewhere in the US are tested for hearing loss. But in many cases, parents do not understand what options they have when hearing difficulties are discovered or the need for early attention to their child's hearing difficulties. Fourth, using text to 911 infrastructure so that deaf and hard of hearing individuals can get help in emergencies. Fifth, demonstrating hearing assistive and alerting devices to enable persons with hearing difficulties to try out equipment before deciding what to purchase. To some extent, this is a function that is being carried out by the Assistive Technology Program for the District of Columbia, but it would be more effective if it were offered in conjunction with MODDHH to provide additional financial resources and personnel with a good understanding of hearing and alerting technology. 6, providing training in hearing loss and the care of hearing devices for staffs of residential facilities that serve the aged. Although hearing loss is very common among the aged, personnel who assist residents are not generally aware of hearing technology or the ways in which physical environments can either make communications easy or difficult. And lastly, but not least, reaching out to community organizations and academic institutions that serve the hearing loss and deaf communities. As indicated, carrying out these and related functions requires that the office of well-qualified staff with a good understanding of the issues that people with hearing loss confront as they attempt to navigate the hearing world professionally, socially, and emotionally. The office will also need staff to stay current on hearing and alertive technology and who understand why it is that untreated hearing loss is increasingly being recognized as an important public health concern. With these considerations in mind, it is strongly recommended that HLAA-DC, the Hearing Loss Association, DC chapter, be involved in advising MODDHH, including helping to assess candidates for the various staff positions that the office seeks to fill. I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you may have, and thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We'll now hear from Judy Alden, Hearing Loss Association of America, DC chapter.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Judy Alden, a 40-year resident of DC, and I'm currently president of the Hearing Loss Association of America. The mission of HLAA, a nonprofit, is to open the world of communication to people with hearing loss through education, support, and advocacy. Aligned with that, I am very pleased today to express my sincere support for the confirmation of Kari Cooke as a director of the Mayor's Office of Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing. Kari was a unanimous choice among the community finalist interviews. She has the experience, commitment, and bias for action to effectively lead this new office. To date, my interactions have been consistently collegial and positive, as Kari recognizes her constituents are not a monolith. Let me preface by expressing my appreciation to the DC Council and especially Council Member Nadeau and her staff, who during the 3+ years of advocating for this office, as a go-to office, separate from the Office of Disability Rights, their guidance has been appreciated. Given my 30+ years of hearing loss and my HLAA role, I'll focus specifically on the needs of the hearing loss community. The hearing loss community advocates for the Certified Communication Access Real-Time Translation, otherwise known as CART, C-A-R-T, which I think we're experiencing this morning, to clearly define standard for those with mild, moderate, severe, profound loss. Often CART is a solution for all hard of hearing as it's seen and understood vis-a-vis American Sign Language administratively. Contract with a certified person to interpret ASL or caption CART. We in the hearing loss community consider ourselves as people with hearing loss, recognized by ADA, ours is an invisible disability. We're usually not Instagrammable. We don't have a cultural component. We want to use whatever works. To meet the enormous emerging technology options available, this office must staff personnel who get it and are committed to being current around innovative solutions. Just in the 3 or so years since this office moved from a vision to a reality, just think about all the technology that has enhanced our lives and has been adapted by the hearing loss community as well. This meeting exemplifies it. Some of these things have been advanced because of COVID. Virtual meetings with automatic speech recognition, Zoom, Skype, YouTube, FaceTime, I understand, is getting captioning. Hearing aid and cochlear implants with Bluetooth that didn't exist a few years ago. Bluetooth is going to become on the horizon multi-receiver, which means you can walk into an environment and have served many people with Bluetooth. That's pretty exciting. So there's a lot of technology happening. In the interest of time, let me conclude. I fully support Kari as MODDHH director. She assumes her multifaceted responsibilities. We at HLAA, as Russ mentioned, welcome the opportunity to collaborate with her to ensure that there's staff to meet the unique needs of the hard of hearing community, an estimated 15% of the US population. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And we'll now hear from our final public witness, Kenneth Kluskey. I will say at this time, if there is anybody who is logged into the Zoom who did not sign up and wishes to testify, if you could use the raise hand function, we'd be happy to promote you to the panel. But otherwise, Ken will be our final public witness. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ken Kluskey, and I live at 1882 Columbia Road, Northwest in Adams, Oregon. And thank you for allowing me to testify at today's hearing. Although both my wife and I also serve on the executive board of the Hearing Loss Association of America, I will be testifying as an individual today. I would like to express my support for the confirmation of Kari Cooke as the permanent director of the Mayor's Office of Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing. Now, I would like to share with you some of my experiences with captioning at the District of Columbia events. Live captioning at events allow me and others of the hard of hearing community to fully participate in in-person and virtual events like this one. My wife and I were married during the pandemic on October 9th, 2020, virtually through the District of Columbia City Hall. Several times, city staff contacted us and asked if we needed an ASL interpreter. Several times, we informed them that we did not know ASL and would like captions. Each time, they indicated that captions were not possible. On the day of our wedding, an ASL interpreter showed up virtually, even though that we already stated several times that we did not know ASL, but there were no captions. We struggled to understand everything during the event, but I am happy to say the outcome was positive and we were happily married as husband and wife. Now, don't get me wrong, we love ASL interpreters, but like most people that are hard of hearing, we just don't know ASL. So I've also attended several ANC meetings virtually through Zoom where automatic speech recognition captions are free, but were not offered. I have also attended multiple other district meetings in the past where captions were requested but not provided, or there were technology issues. So I support Kari Cooke's confirmation because my interactions with her have demonstrated that she understands these problems we have had in the past and will take action to alleviate them in the future. After all, doing so would directly conform to the office purpose of advancing the civil rights of the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to this panel. I do have one question for Russell Michelhoff. Russell, you did enumerate some suggestions. There was one in particular I wanted to get a little more info about today. The setting up text to 911 infrastructure so that deaf and hard of hearing individuals can get help in emergencies. Can you talk about how the process works now?
Yes, thank you. I would amend that to say, it's not so much a matter of setting up. There is a system. It's, I think of what I was really meant to say, and Protestant didn't say very well, is that I'm not sure that people understand it very well. I don't know, how to do it. Basically, as I understand it, I've never used it myself, never had occasion to, I'm pleased to say. They ask that if at all possible, use the phone. But for people with hearing loss, as well as, people who are deaf, that is sometimes difficult. And so there is a 911 procedure. There is I actually have it in front of me now. I'm not sure you can see that, but there is, a little tutorial, I think, and it's really a question of making people well aware, much more, I think, than they are now, of how the system works and how, in the case of an emergency, they should be able to act and get access to 911.
Wonderful. In our testimony today from each witness, it becomes so clear that there are distinct needs for each population that will be served by this office, right? Ken's testimony about needing captioning versus ASL, for example. And so I feel as though we are fortunate to stand up this office, to now have a director who deeply understands these issues before us, so that, we don't leave it to folks in government who just don't understand the issue. So I'm hoping this office can be a real advocacy point, and can teach all of us in government who need to better understand the needs of the people that we serve. So I'm feeling very encouraged today. And I thank everybody on this panel for your testimony. And with that, we will let you go so that we can hear the testimony of Acting Director Kari Cooke. Thank you so much, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Director. So before you give your testimony, I'm going to administer an oath to you. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give to the Committee on Human Services is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Wonderful. When you're ready, you may begin your testimony.
Hello. First, I want to start off with my ID. I am a Black woman with brown skin. I have dreadlocks that are shoulder length. I have a black sleeved top with silver bodice with a zipper. Also pearl earrings and necklace with a gold We Are DC pin, one ring on each hand, and I have a man on the right of me and one woman on the left of me. So again, good morning, Chairperson Nadeau and members and staff of the Committee on Human Services. I am Kari Cooke, Acting Director of the Mayor's Office of the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing. As a proud resident of Ward 5, I am honored to have been nominated by Mayor Muriel Bowser as the inaugural Director of the Office of Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing. I thank you so much for holding this hearing and welcome the opportunity to discuss my background, my experience, as well as my vision for the agency. So just a little bit about my background and experience. In college, I started my career through the mentorship of a middle school student. She was hard of hearing and frustrated by the lack of support she received during her education. Ironically, I coached her in self-advocacy while learning to do the exact same for myself at new levels. Like my student, I was also a person who grew up hard of hearing, but around the same time, I lost the majority of my ability to hear and decided to learn ASL. Consequently, I completed my first graduate program, earning a degree in rehabilitation counseling with a focus on vocational transition for deafblind community members. I went on to work in higher education at the City College of New York and LaGuardia Community College, where graduation rates for my students were above average at 89%, with 76% going on to graduate school or employment within 6 months of graduation. It was my consistent advocacy for students that contributed to their success. During this time, I was appointed to the New York State Independent Living Council by then Governor Cuomo in partnership with the Network of Community-Based Centers for Independent Living, also known as CILs. My work in advocacy for disability communities was recognized, and due to my advocacy for disabled veterans in particular, I was recruited to the Department of Labor, Veterans Employment and Training Services, Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program, where I had a 99% housing placement for veterans, as well as a 65% employment rate within 9 months of joining the program. Throughout my career, my focus has been on getting results. My dream was to work in the political space, and I became the inaugural Director of Policy and Government with National Black Deaf Advocates, also known as NBDA, becoming the first person to earn NBDA a seat at the Federal Communications Commission, Disability Advisory Council under the Obama administration. I am a believer in education, so that urged me to go back and earn my second graduate degree to fortify my leadership and administration skills at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education with a specialization in nonprofit management from the UPenn Fell School of Government. After graduation in the spring of 2015, I became an assistant dean at Dartmouth College, where I led and developed 12 campus-wide change management initiatives. Annually, that addressed racial equity, gender parity, LGBTQIA2S+ intersectionality, and systemic transformation. I was recognized for my leadership and was promoted to interim director after 5 months, supervising a cross-functional team of 10 staff. I am most proud of the recognition for a 72% increase of sense of belongingness in underrepresented students who felt the most marginalized at an elite Ivy League institution. Still desiring to make an impact directly in deaf, deafblind, deaf-disabled, and hard of hearing communities, I became vice president at Communication Services for the Deaf, what is now known as Unites Community Foundation. There, I developed well-researched strategic plans and led project management for social impact campaigns around accessible online learning for K through 12, online workforce development, nonprofit capacity building, and I also led a COVID-19 disaster relief grant portfolios, including reviewing annual budgets, sourcing new grant opportunities by identifying potential grantees, coordinating due diligence process with the legal department, and developing grant recommendations based on annual agency goals. I also implemented infrastructure systems for volunteer-led nonprofits by coordinating strategic partnerships with stakeholders across business, nonprofit, academic, and governmental sectors. And I also oversaw close to a $1 million budget with 72% of FY19's revenue goal met 11 months before the fiscal year end. Prior to this appointment, I was at the Stagen Leadership Academy, where I was part of the inaugural program that transitioned corporate executive training modules to the nonprofit sector with a focus on curating company culture and talent management. The breadth and variety of my experience has prepared me for this role as the director of the Mayor's Office of the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing. I will bring that same advocacy, pioneering opportunities, systemic change management, intersectional focus, strategic partnerships development, and leadership advancement to this role. This can be seen in my work over the last 3 months. Since June, I have conducted ward-to-ward listening tours, hosting town halls all over the district to learn more from the deaf, deafblind, deaf-disabled, hard of hearing, and late deaf and Washingtonians, their issues that were pertinent to their lives as it relates to their experiences. As a new office, I have developed a framework, structure, and established an equitable team of Washingtonians to serve within the office. Currently, I am working with the team to develop a summit for National Disability Employment Awareness Month in October, and the work continues. Now, just a little bit about my vision for MODA, affectionately known as. I often say that community was my first mentor, and it is for that reason that I believe the collective efforts of District of Columbia residents, government agencies, and businesses will garner the potent solutions that we need. My vision for the Mayor's Office of the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing is a DC that is naturally inclusive, accessible, and equitable for all deaf, deafblind, deaf-disabled, hard of hearing, and late deaf and Washingtonians. This is not a far-off dream. It is an actual achievable reality, but it will take all of our determined efforts, all of us making best use of resources, all of us deciding that our district is worth nothing less than the best. Deaf, deafblind, deaf disabled, hard of hearing, and late deafened people are numerous here in DC, with Washington being home to the largest ASL using workforce in the country. We contribute to the best of what makes DC, DC. We are artists, educators, electricians, we're housewives, we're activists, we're student scholars, we're policy analysts, we're nonprofit managers, we're grassroots organizers, musicians, comedians, Uber drivers, small business owners, CDIs, dancers, administrative assistants, politicians, technicians, chefs, home support aides, and one of us is even a political appointee as acting director within the executive office of the mayor. You cannot be in DC without running into the vast, deaf, deafblind, disabled, hard of hearing, and late deafened population that contribute towards the overall vitality of this district. But our experiences are inequitable and do not reflect our contribution. For these same inequities limit our capacity to thrive. If the District of Columbia is growing at the rate of 1,000 new residents each month, and 15% of those people have hearing loss, that is 1,800 brand new residents annually who are deaf, deafblind, disabled, and hard of hearing. I extend a gratitude to the council and Mayor Bowser for seeing that it's time to set up this office and address the gaps in our experiences as residents with hearing loss. I look forward to developing creative initiatives that address these gaps. Using some of these skills I have gained in my various positions, I am accustomed to setting and meeting goals and holding myself accountable through the development and tracking of performance measures. I will do so if confirmed as director, as well as work as part of the community relations team to engage my community in broader community engagement initiatives. While I am excited about the opportunity to lead MODA, I also understand the deep responsibility to serving that comes along with this role, and I'm grateful to Mayor Bowser for nominating me. I also want to thank and acknowledge the people who serve every day with a special token of gratitude to the staff of the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, the Office of Disability Rights, and the Department of Disability Services. I am proud to serve with and work alongside some of the most passionate and highly qualified and determined professionals in government. In closing, I also want to speak directly to the community. Under my leadership, our office will work to advocate and empower you. We'll find opportunities to make sure you can access government services and develop policies to enrich our lives. And one final thank you to the deaf, deafblind, hard of hearing, and other advocates who work tirelessly over years fighting for equity, inclusion, and representation. Madam Chair, this concludes my testimony. I look forward to answering any questions you or other members of the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some questions that are standard, which you may have answered in your testimony, but we're going to ask them again right here, just to make sure we have them on the record in the right place. So to begin, are you a district resident, or if confirmed, do you intend to reside in the district for the entirety of your term?
Yes, I am a resident of Ward 5, and I live in on 8th Street, DC, downtown.
Wonderful, thank you. Are you presently an officer or director of any corporation, partnership, or other organization in the District of Columbia, either for-profit or nonprofit, which is doing business with the District of Columbia government?
No.
Are you presently a member of any board or commission connected with the district government?
No.
Do you or any member of your immediate family have any interest, financial or otherwise, that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties to the office to which you have been nominated?
No,
Do you have any outstanding liability for taxes, fees, or other payments to the district, federal, state, or other local government, either contested or uncontested?
no.
Okay. Now, that's out of the way. Can you talk more about your recent work as a fellow at the Leadership Academy, and what duties did you have as a fellow, and how your work there prepared you for this position?
Sure. While I was at State Leadership Academy, I was a Lord Fellow. It was a brand new program where we transferred the corporate executive training modules that we use, for CEOs and other Fortune 500 companies. We transferred that into the nonprofit sector. So as a fellow, I was part of, developing and implementing these modules, as well as training others. I do believe that this is going to be a crucial part of this role. Because of the nature of serving on the mayor's cabinet, I'm able to take these skills that I use as Staken and of the other prior workplaces to be able to implement them in this space as well.
Wonderful, thank you. I just want to clarify one thing, because when you replied, we didn't have ASL going on the Zoom. So I think when you reply, we are still going to need our interpreters in the Zoom to be, yes, very good. Okay, so I think we're on the right page now. And that was captioned, so hopefully that will be good for those who watch later as well. Okay, thank you. So you state in your CV that one of the challenges as Director of Policy and Governmental Affairs for the National Black Deaf Advocates was expanding the organization's national political impact by engaging the Federal Communications Commission. Can you talk a little about that challenge and the strategies you used to engage the FCC and how that work will help you as director?
Sure. Well, basically, National Black Deaf Advocates was founded in 1982, and it is an organization that definitely kind of started at the grassroots level. It was primarily because the National Association of the Deaf was not being accessible for Black deaf people. They're very marginalized and excluded, and as a result, Black deaf leaders around the country decided to form National Black Deaf Advocates. So as an organization, it's relatively new and young compared to the majority of the deaf leadership in this country. However, it is probably one of the most tied into the actual community. Every single chapter in every location around the country focuses on direct advocacy for the unique needs. As a result, when I came on board, there was a vision to kind of expand our national visibility, because our local visibility was very, very strong, but our national visibility not so much. And so as a result of my background and my network, I was able to see this opportunity with the FCC, the Disability Advisory Committee, Council, and they were looking for new members. And so working with the board of NBDA, National Black Deaf Advocates, I was able to put forth a portfolio showcasing why we should be joining the advisory committee, as well as why we would provide a unique voice on that committee. So I'm very, very proud to say that our application was very successful. We were accepted to have a seat. On top of that, 2 years after joining, our NBDA representative was able to serve as chair of that advisory committee. So that really just showcases just how much NBDA is really involved in doing direct advocacy, direct action, and also translating that into the policy space. And so that's definitely something that I see myself using and doing in this role. Because it is a new office, there's going to be a lot of groundwork kind of needing to get done. So both at just kind of an office level as well as district-wide. That's something that I've already really started, right? So having these word-to-word town halls and getting partnership with community-based organizations, and that's been the way that I've been able to make sure that we are growing and increasing our visibility within Washington, D.C.
Thank you so much. Could you also share with us what you see as the mission of the office and your hope for developing the office? What other strategic planning goals do you see as necessary?
The primary thing is to make sure that DC is equitable for deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing, right? And so my main thing that I got from having these word-to-word town halls was hearing from Washingtonians directly their experiences and their needs. And while there was a wide array of needs that were brought out, there were 4 main areas that really stood out. So education, making sure that there's access, especially in light of language deprivation, employment and economic development, the lack of opportunity, the lack of equity, and really tying into Mayor Bowser's Pathway to the Middle Class initiative, making sure that we aren't left behind in that. And then health access, healthcare access, huge, significant. And that also kind of ties into the last one, which is technical access, whether that be for interpreters, whether that be captioned. Even the caption tiers, not very good, right? It's hard to follow. And that's actually why I decided at a later age to learn ASL, because captioned, as I was growing up, I was hard of hearing. The captions weren't very well done. And so I decided if the only way I'm going to have access is to learn ASL. And so that's what I decided to do. And then I actually became deaf around that same time and became a member of the community. So it was perfect timing. But those are the 4 areas where I see we really need to focus on. And so I'm grateful that I was able to have those tours and get that feedback from the community. But for the next year, we're going to get to work. We're going to really work on addressing these issues through programs, policy initiatives, and also by developing partnerships in order to make sure that all of DC is equitable at every level.
Fantastic. And you've covered a few of my questions with that last answer. So I am going to I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So you talk in your CV, you talk about as director, you talked about the town halls in your testimony. Let's see. How do you ensure that people have awareness of and access to the town halls, and how will your office effectively use the information that you gather at the town halls?
So the way in which we were able to get the word out is that we co-sponsored our event with the local grassroots leadership and organizations. So every single town hall was co-sponsored by over 11 organizations that serve deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing and grassroots communities in particular. And as a result, every single time we sent out a flyer, we were able to get these organizations to send it out. This can be seen as our effectiveness can be seen by the fact that we had one event that had less than 24 hours notice, but we had over 75 people show up to that town hall. So that's an example of how making use of our community-based organizations and our network, we were able to get the word out about these town halls. I'm really excited and proud to say that we had so many DC government agencies show up as well. For example, MPD showed up to one of our town halls, and so many others showed up. And it was a way to kind of get the word out, not only about the new office, hear from local Washingtonians what their needs were, but also be able to share the resources that DC government and agencies provide with residents as well. So it was very comprehensive and worked well in that way. That information that I've garnered, I will be using to develop the strategic plan and the vision, which I've already kind of started since we wrapped up the town halls a couple of weeks ago, and developing that. At the end of the fiscal year, I will submit a report to the mayor and the council, so you can see how we were able to take the information that I've garnered from those town halls and from residents, and implement them throughout the year for effectiveness and impact as well.
Wonderful. So with that report, I mean, what are the performance indicators that you are going to be using?
I'll be using based on those 4 areas that I mentioned earlier. So education, employment, and technical assets and healthcare assets as well. So I will be doing an assessment right around now. We're doing an assessment, and then at the end of the year, I will submit a report showcasing over the past 12 months what the results and outcomes look like.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, this office is serving a number of different populations.
Mhm.
And sometimes the city prioritizes the deaf population above others. Which obviously is a very important population, but how will you ensure that all the different populations served by this office are receiving the services they need and are prioritized appropriately?
Well, that's already been kind of centered in how I operate. So the way that I work is by centering the margins, and the margins in this office would be the deaf, blind, and hard of hearing population. So as a result, I will have specialized programming and outreach for deaf, blind, and hard of hearing populations. Additionally, I do plan to make sure that we have comprehensive recruitment for the commission, as well making sure that the deaf, blind, deaf, disabled, LGBTQ, and people of color and grassroots deaf, blind, and hard of hearing people in particular are represented. I also have a lot of focus on making sure that the deaf disabled population is represented, particularly people with intellectual disabilities. They are a significant portion of the deaf disabled community here in DC, and making sure that their voices, their unique needs are heard as well. It's a huge part of my initiative and the work that I plan to do within the office.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of the work that you plan to do, how will you staff up the office? What are the positions you seek to fill first?
Well, we actually just filled our last position last week. And so for the office, we have the deputy director, we have the chief of staff. Over to my left, I have Jacqueline Ting. And you're right, she is the policy analyst for the office, had a really incredible background with the master's in public policy, also has a certification in emergency preparedness and disaster management for people with disabilities, as well as a certification in social and community impact assessments and development. Then I have Saeed Abdi over here to my right. He's our operations assistant. He basically makes the office run smooth. He started this week, and already I don't know how I was able to function without him these past few months. And so I'm just so excited about that. Not present here, we have our program coordinator, Sean Norman, and then we also have the chief of staff, Kishore Gore. So the office is really comprehensive, and we're really hitting the ground running. Starting today, we actually have a global accessibility technology summit that we're co-sponsoring, co-hosting. So we kind of let that summit come here, make sure we do this confirmation hearing, but we're really active. I'm really proud of the fact that this office is not just kind of sitting around and, kind of getting going. We're working, and we're putting in that work, and that just really showcases the ways in which that we prioritize getting results through this office.
Wonderful. That's exciting. So what is the breakdown? How do you plan to apportion your budget to the various duties in the office, personnel, overhead, grants, et cetera?
Well, that's actually coming up right this week. I have the budget appropriation kickoff with the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. So that will be taking place this week. But making sure that I have portioned out the funding to cover the cost of overhead, staff and the like, but also making sure that I have enough for programming, outreach, and civil rights policy outreach as well has been a key part of the work that I'm doing. The only way in which this office will really function is making sure that we use the best use of our dollars. And so that's definitely something that I've been highlighting and focusing on.
Wonderful. Okay, just winding down. How do you envision the relationship between the functions of your office and the Office of Disability Rights?
Well, the great news is we've already been partnering up, right? So for example, just a few weeks ago, I had an outreach from a council member with a constituent who was going through some issues, especially as a deaf senior citizen and homeowner. And so the council member reached out to my office, but in conversations, I realized, oh, I think I need ODR here because there would be some kind of legal and policy stuff that I thought, oh, okay, there's some overlap. So I reached out to Matthew, the director for ODR, and he's been a great ally and supporter of this office as well. And so we've already built that relationship. And I'm really grateful for the fact that I've been welcomed with open arms by not only ODR, but the Department of Disability Services and the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. Comprehensively, we are serving DC residents at every single level. And I'm really excited to continue doing that work.
Wonderful, that's great news. Okay, so finally, what is the current process for DC agencies to request CART captioning services? And what are your proposed plans to improve this process? And let me sort of get more specific. How will you identify captionists and translators, and how will you evaluate performance and ensure a transparent process?
Sure. So I'm going to hit that in two parts. Currently, the process for requesting CART or interpreters is through contacting the agency that covers the vendors, but right now is ODR. At next week, Monday, that will be my office. So individuals can contact my office starting next week to request CART and caption, CART and ASL interpretation. As far as it relates to assessment of that, that's something that is a huge part of the strategic plan, and we're developing right now. In fact, with the support of the mayor and others, I've been able to determine that we need to have some kind of standardization and process developed. That will be in partnership with the commission as well, developing a standardization procedure so that whether or not someone is certified or qualified, that we make sure that they're actually interpreting and serving the community in real ways. So for example, even now with the caption, making sure that if it's not a technical thing, is it a CART thing? Is it the captioner is not able to catch everything? In that case, developing standards and measurement to make sure that the communication asset is truly accessible, right? Very often, I'm sure you've heard, that there are some interpreters who are just not understandable to the vast majority of the population. Making sure we develop standards to not only make it required that they pass these standards in order to serve, but also make sure that they're able to have opportunities to grow and develop as well will be key, because DC has a large number of interpreters, so it's not a lack. It's not that we can't find them, right? So it's making sure that we open up the bidding so that we can have vendors come back to the table and make sure that we're opening it up so that every single vendor is able to have access to bringing their best interpreters to the table. And the outcomes of that, I will bring to the council at the annual report, making sure that we say, these are the standards we developed, here's how we plan to implement them, and so on and so forth.
That's great. And as an example, we worked together today to ensure that this hearing is accessible to all that wish to participate and view it or hear it. And it was a challenge because we had a contractor who very last minute wasn't able to fulfill the contract, right? Yeah. So deepening the bench is really important. We can't hold a hearing without providing services to the people who need to access it. So this has really been a priority for our committee, so in any case, we want to model this for every committee and every government communication. So thank you in particular to you, your staff, our captioners today, our interpreters, Billy Sanders and Catherine Willett. We hope that we have provided an opportunity for everybody who wished to do so to engage. So thank you. And this concludes today's public hearing. So for those who plan on submitting written testimony for the record, please do so by emailing it to humanservices@dccouncil.gov by close of business on Thursday, October 6th. The time is 11:06 a.m. and this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.